So, guys, listen, today we're going to be talking about a couple of different topics. The first topic that we're going to be hitting is finding your niche in security. I put up a post in my community tab, Diesel, the other day where I was asking people, I said, a lot of people don't like what they're doing in security. And I know this is not just security. You probably see this in the law enforcement field. People see this in every aspect of work. But I said, if you are happy with what you're doing, what is it about your location that you like? I had a really rough week this past week, had some administrative stuff that I wasn't happy about. Nothing too major, it's just little stuff. And one thing I will say, big bro, I can tell that I've matured and grown because in my 20s and 30s, small administrative things, and you know what I'm talking about, like stuff where people that are above you say, hey, look, I know you don't agree with this, but this is what you got to do. Right.
Right.
One of my downfalls as a man, one of my downfalls as an employee, as a worker, has always been that I've never jived well with that. I'm a right fighter. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
You fight for the principle at the behest of all the things that you lose, trying to prove your point.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It was like a situation that came up, and I thought to myself, at the end of the day, this is not worth ruining a relationship or ruining a work relationship over being, disjointed about something. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
You're totally right, man. Because this is the thing about it, man. A lot of people don't realize, but everybody's got a boss, and it's coming from somewhere, right? With me going from being a regular officer to where I'm at now, I totally understand where you're coming from, bro. But I totally understand being on the other side too. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll do some administrative changes on some certain things, and it just, for one, it might be just to make my job easier.
Yeah.
Because I have to be in charge of the whole department, so I need this to be a lot easier for me, even though it may make it a little bit harder for you.
Yeah.
But it makes it a lot easier for me, and I'm doing it for 30-some officers instead of just you're doing it for you. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a little bit different when it comes down to administrative stuff. People have to realize, especially when it comes to a sergeant, because when I tell my sergeants to do something and make sure their guys are doing it, and they go to their guys and doing it, my sergeants are not to say this is what the chief says.
Right.
This is what we doing. Period.
Right.
Point blank. You know what I'm saying? So it's not. I get it. But sometimes we just have to realize it's coming from somewhere, and everybody's got a boss. You know what I'm saying? Because I got a boss too. My town manager and my mayor, they're on me all the time about stuff they would like to see changes on. So, and
to understand that it's a cycle. We get into this position where we tend to look at things from the place that we are. And, every person that is a rank and file officer, whether that's in the military, law enforcement, security, basic business, you won't always be in that position. And at some point in time, you're going to be in a position of management, position of leadership. And so you have to make sure that you're putting pennies in the jar and not always taking pennies out of the jar, because at some point in time, when you're in charge, you're going to need people to toe the line. And a lot of times as a supervisor, you're asking people to do things that you don't necessarily agree with either.
Right.
But at the end of the day, business is business, especially in private security. Business is business. You know what I mean? And that is the bottom line. And everybody's contract is riding on people making the right decisions for the business. So that was a moment that I looked at, and I thought I had some really good growth because that's not normally how I would have handled things in the past. But that made me think, I have found a niche in my market of private security. I really enjoy where I'm at. I've had 2 offers since the last time that I talked to you to join police departments. One was the Portland State University, but at the time, Portland State University, they had their officers working unarmed. And I just,
police officers?
Yes.
Oh no. What?
Yeah. Portland, right? I mean, you're aware of
Portland. I know Portland, but I never would have thought I'd know what?
So what happened, I'm going to say it was in 2020, maybe 2021. There was a situation where and this is all to the best of my knowledge. Okay. Don't quote me. From what I was told, there was a fight on campus. 2 people got into it. A young man either pulled a firearm or a firearm dropped out of his coat as the police officers were responding. They gave him commands to not reach for the firearm, and as the people who support his actions say that he inadvertently reached for the firearm as it fell. And
I don't care if it was inadvertent or I don't care if it was on purpose or not, brother. You did exactly what I told you not to do.
100%. So he was shot, and that led to, mass uprisings. You know how it is here in Portland. So long story short, the vast majority of the people that were working in that department, they quit, rightfully so. And so, I was put in a position where I went, I interviewed. The chief of police was a great guy, and he was doing the best that he could with the situation. But I couldn't bring myself to being in a situation where I was working unarmed. Now, fast forward to 2023, and they got their firearms back. So, it could have been a potentially good move for me, but I didn't take that. And then the last one was the Port of Portland, which is the Air Force or the airport police that works with the Transient Authority. Mm-hmm. And the issue that I had there was they wanted me to declare all my tattoos. So like I have over 30 tattoos. Mm-hmm. They wanted me to individually take pictures of every tattoo and declare what they were. And I'm almost 50 years old, and that kind of stuff just bothers me. I know it's part of the protocol, but
you have to kind of to make sure they're not gang affiliated or biker affiliated or anything like that. That's the main reason why we do that. So I have to do that for everybody that applies with me. Also, if they have tattoos, they have to declare them. But
it started to dawn on me that I really enjoy my location. I work, oddly enough, at a grocery store primarily.
Those are fun ones, man.
We service about 16 locations in the greater Portland area. And depending on which area of town they're in, you have different issues. Like you can work at our Gateway location, which is like on the southeast side. Like it's not a joke over there. Like these are your organized crime, your gangs, your petty criminals. Like these are people that are doing a lot of dirt. You have a lot of shootings, a lot of homicides in that area. Where I'm at, it's primarily the Old Town district, which is where all the homeless people are. So I deal with mental health. I deal with, drug addiction. I deal with just schizophrenia. We laugh. I cannot tell you how much we laugh at work. Like our job is just it's so crazy, the things that we see. And I don't say that to be like, mean to the people that are dealing with those situations, but I can't even show half of the things that I have on tape or video that happen at that location. It's just so crazy, but it's so much. I'm gonna tell you, man, it's so much fun. So like, I make good money. I have a good group of people that I work with. I have a community that respects me, looks up to me. The people that are in that neighborhood, they know me, and then every day, you can be dealing with something from a homicide to a naked person running through the store, dealing with people that are overdosing, people that are just like saying the most outlandish stuff, being schizophrenic. It's crazy. So my question to you was like, as a police officer, how did you, or did you, at what point did you find your niche where you're like, this size department, this location, this avenue of work is what I want to do? Because I'm assuming that you had the opportunity to go to big cities or work in small cities. Like, how did you find your niche?
I really didn't. I really didn't look at what size department I wanted to be in. When I can remember when I wanted to be a police officer, there were two things that I know I wanted to do when I went to be a police officer. One, I wanted to ride a motorcycle because I love chips. And then the other one was I wanted to be able to wear street clothes to work and be a police, right?
All right.
And I did both. I was a motor cop for 4 years, but I did narcotics for most of my time. I did narcotics for 12 years, which was the most fun I've ever had in law enforcement, was narcotics. Yeah. Like, I like my job now. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I enjoy it, but this job came from a forced outside force, right? So if it were up to me, I would have stayed in narcotics and been able to wear my street clothes every day and just investigate narcotics. You know what I'm saying? So, and you're right. You're totally right. When it comes down to it, any job, I think it's with any job, to really enjoy a job, because I love being the police, but I hate being a patrolman. I cannot stand driving and answering 911. That burnt me out so much. It was like I was so depressed. When I was in law enforcement, I think it was my 6th or 7th year, and I was still a patrol officer answering 911. I was just so unhappy. And then when I got to narcotics, that's when that love came back. So any job that you have, you're going to need to find that one thing that makes you happy in your job, right?
Right.
It doesn't feel like work, right? Because I'm pretty sure you're loving your job this much. It doesn't feel like work when you go in. It feels like a comedy club sometimes, right? So, and I know exactly what you're talking about because we run into the same exact things on the street. So, yeah, it's very important to find that niche.
Yeah. I think that for security guards, it's hard to think that like you can find a place that and maybe it comes with maturity. You know what I mean? I think that it's hard for younger guys who have that desire to be police officers, and maybe even guys who are a little bit older, my age or whatever, that want to be police officers. And I kind of fought with that for a while, going back and forth, where I was taking the NTN, I was submitting my resumes, and this was, during that 2021 era where police agencies were hurting. Like they were reaching out and they were like, hey, like come take your test and come do your physical, let's rock and roll. But as I've gotten older, I just really appreciate the autonomy of not having a large political, bureaucratic, group to answer to. I've done that before. I've been in the military. I've worked in law enforcement, and there's something to be said for finding a place where you fit in and where you're happy and where you're comfortable. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So before I became a police, I was a security officer as well. I was armed security, and I was part of a task force that we had where we just did the high crime, we did late night Waffle Houses, nightclubs, and those things. Those are the places that we worked, right? And
in what state?
North Carolina.
You're crazy.
I was actually in Charlotte, North Carolina.
You're crazy.
Looking back, I was getting paid $10 an hour and no insurance. Like,
yeah.
I had the most fun of my life, bro. I had the most fun of my life. But one thing about security that I just never really enjoyed was the fact that, just like the task force that we was at, apartment complex would call us about a problem, robberies, break-ins, or something like that. We'll be out there for 4 to 6 months, clean everything up, and then all of a sudden they don't need us no more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was the main thing that I just could not understand, or not. I understood it, but I just could not get with when it came down to it. I know I wanted to be the police. Being security was fun. It was the closest thing I could do to being police because I was underage.
Yeah.
But I knew I didn't want to stay in it that long because of that fact. You'll go 6 months of doing the job that they ask you to do, and if you do too good of a job, they're gonna get rid of you. If you don't do a good enough job, they're gonna get rid of you. So you gotta walk that line. They're gonna get rid of you regardless of what you do. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
That's why I really, really strove hard to get into law enforcement, because I knew that if I was to get out of law enforcement, it would be because I did something, not because of a contract or anything.
Right. Yeah. That is one of the drawbacks, and that's something that we'll talk about a little further.